Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Investor Guys podcast. Mr. Barnett, how are you doing in your
I am.
orange sherbet shirt?
That's
there?
right. That's right. I'm doing well, sir. Good to see you as
Thank you.
always.
You want a dreamsicle?
Yeah. That's what all the chicks tell me.
Yes.
So
We'll just leave that one.
we'll just let that slide right on by there. So cool day today. We got some great stuff today. Redfin came out with their yearly report, and it's they do it really based on the first half of the year, and a lot of great stuff in it. So I've got a summary of the report here, and just highlighted some things that fit for our group very specifically. And so I thought that might be fun to go over today and informative for everybody that is joining us out there. So median home prices increased. This is as of the end of July, year over year, 14%. Median home price in the across the U.S. right now, $358,250. That is a enormous number based on where you are, but for that to be the median price, that's the highest median price that we've ever had for a nation. So that just lets you know that, what's been going on in the real estate market. Nobody needs to tell you the real estate market's been hot. However, somebody does need to tell you that it's not going to remain hot. And then how do you react to that as it starts to come down? Because there is a large percentage of investors who are, I call them the untrained investor. They jump into the market when it's been like it has been since 2013, when it's really hot and rocking. They jump in, they muddy the water for folks like you and I and other people that do it professionally. And then when the market turns, they jump out because they don't have a clue how to continue to be in real estate and make money in real estate when the market is moving downward. You and I both know that as long as the market's moving, you can make substantial money. Doesn't matter if it's moving up, doesn't matter if it's moving down. You can make substantial money in this market when it's moving. It's when it's flat that you can that's the most challenging time. But if it's going up or going down, if you understand, no big deal. So median price, all-time high, will be coming down as the market turns. Asking prices of newly listed homes were up 10% from the same time a year ago. And on par where asking prices were as the end of April a year ago as well, but down about 2% from the all-time high, which was in June. So this came out, goes through the end of July. Well, the end of June was the all-time high asking prices for across the board. New listings of homes for sale down 7% from a year ago. This is part of that seeing the market turn and understanding these underpinnings that you and I talk about that are the forerunners. They're the precursors to the general public going, oh, hey, the real estate market's down now. Because we may be a year and a half away from that point where the general public goes, oh, real estate's not hot any longer. What
After
you and I do
on the news.
Yeah. And what we do moving forward puts us in position to ride the flow profitably down, just like we ride the flow profitably up. And so understanding that it's coming puts you in a position to be able to say, okay, my marketing will start to change. The way that I bid properties will start to change. When this changed and at the end of 2012 and we took off, I new people that come in and I go, there'll be a time here, it's not that far down the road, that we won't even consider looking at anything that hasn't been on the market for 120 days. Like, excuse me, what? But yeah, 120 days. They're like, well, nothing ever, there's no houses on the market for 120 days. I'm like, yeah, you don't in a market like we have now, but it's changing. And we'll get to that point where 120 days is our filter. It's one of the filters, and we're just not going to look at it if it hadn't been on that while, because the owners become more motivated, and that's where we want to be. When the market turns down, you got to deal with the motivated guys, and they will get more and more motivated. So new home sales down 7%. That's a big deal. That's something that we have to pay attention to. And a lot of people miss the impact that has on the market. New home sales, from the media standpoint, is something sexy compared to existing homes. But you also have to make sure that you remember new homes are this much, existing homes are this much. Because if it was a new home last year and it sold, well, it's now part of the existing home market. So when new home sales are down, new homes are a tiny sliver of the real estate market. It's the existing home market that makes up 97, 98% of residential real estate, not the new homes. It's just easier to track. And as I refer to it, it's sexier for the news people, the financial people, to be able to follow the new homes. And that's where the bank money goes to. It goes to new home construction many times. So it's just a sexier news story. So it gets a lot of attention. So
And as you mentioned, much easier to follow, too much easier to track.
Yeah. So we are up on a break.
So we'll go ahead and continue this conversation when we get back in just a minute. We'll see you soon. And we are back, and just before the break, Bill's going over numbers for what happened last year and what could be happening next year. And ironically, and we'll save this for the final segment, Bill and I were talking about Cleveland, and I was putting together a Cleveland buyers event, and I have numbers for Cleveland, and I think you're going to find those pretty interesting, Bill, and as along with the rest of you. We'll cover that on our last segment, because we're going to talk about a Cleveland buyers event. It is way off in the future. Because our schedules are so slammed, but the sooner you get signed up, the better, because it will fill up quickly. We'll talk about that final segment. Go ahead and continue with your line of thought there. You had points from Redfin is what we were going over.
Yeah. And so here is another one of those precursors to the market, foreshadowing the downturn in the market. Active listings, which is the number of homes listed for sale at any point during the period they are reviewing, fell 23% year over year. Active listings fell 23%. That tends to happen in an environment where the market is starting to change, so that a lot of people look at it and go, what am I doing right now? If I'm not downsizing, because a lot of people fall in love with the idea of selling their house because they've got a lot of profit locked up in it. But when they go through the numbers, many times they decide not to do that, because unless they are downsizing in property size, unless they are relocating to a significantly cheaper subdivision, or they're moving to a different state, and they're not doing something that gets them a lot more value for the real estate dollar that they just got for selling their home, they take all that money and they put it right back into the new home. Now, if they want to move for the sake of moving, well, that's fine. But if they're moving to capture some of that profit, there's some give and take there. It's not just I sell it and I can go buy something, because mentally most sellers get into that mode of they're thinking that they can go buy another house like what they bought at the price they bought it at and start this over and keep 200, 300, 500, whatever the number amount is a profit for them, and that just doesn't happen. So we're down 20% from last year. Active listings were up from their low point of this year, 2021, but down 20% from last year. And They even in July, they were down, and July is one of the peak months. Well, they dropped 3% in July from June for this year. So those things just let us know. But the big one there is the 23% from this time last year. And think about what this time last year was. This time last year, we were in the middle of the lockdown.
Yeah.
We were COVID stupid, not that we're not now, but, we had gone through all of this stuff. And now we're 23% lower than what we were doing in the middle of all of that. That should tell you it's changing, and it's changing rather quickly. 47% of homes that went under contract had an accepted offer within the first 2 weeks on the market. That's higher than last year. Last year was 43%, but it's down from the peak of this year. But that's not a bad number at all. That you get a contract on a property within 2 weeks. That's for 47% of the homes. That's a good deal. 34% of homes that went under contract had an accepted offer within a week of hitting the market. So smaller percentage, but that many homes, 34%, had it within 1 week of hitting the market. And that's up a little bit from the peak of this year, but down from the peak of last year.
Yeah. And find those two numbers, that's 82% of homes that had offers within 2 weeks.
Homes that were sold on the market for a median of 19 days. So across the country, you can figure I got 3 weeks in me, I got my house sold if you're looking to sell. That was higher than it was at the end of June. That one number was 15 days. Now it's bumped up to 19 days. And that's just another foreshadowing for us. 50% of homes sold above the list price. And out of that, this part of it has been falling since July of last year, when we peaked at 55%. So goes creeping down. That's not a huge plunge, but it's creeping down, and it's creeping down for a reason. On average, 4.9% of the homes for sale each week had a price drop. So call it 5% of all the property listed every week is incurring a price drop. And if that's down from what it was, the biggest we've had in the last 10 years where that stat came up was in October of 2019. Well, we just surpassed that number. So 4.9% price drop. And I mentioned to clients, and I think we've mentioned to it on the air, I'm sure you probably have mentioned this, but because you and I own traditional real estate firms as well as our investing, we get a different flow of information. And one of the things that we get to see is through the MLS, every time there's a price drop, we get it across the board. Now we can filter that out, so it's only on stuff that we're interested in or stuff that our firm has listed. I do it for the entire MLS for my market so that I see what's going on, what are these telltale signs, so I can stay on top of where the market's headed. And I get anywhere from 8 to 14 of these every single day just in my market. Hey, price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. You'll see a few of them back on the market. And that's a sale that's fallen through. And one thing that Redfin doesn't touch on in here, and that I want our listeners and watchers to remember, is that you have about a 20% fallout rate, period, across the board. And that's tied to financing, whether it's somebody buying it as an owner-occupied property or whether they're buying it as an investment property. Financing falls through enough that about 20% of all of these contracts never close. something happens, and most time it's financing on that.
Sometimes it's an
So
inspection that didn't come out the way that somebody wanted to.
yeah,
The buyer and the seller
yep.
couldn't negotiate it, but yeah, it is right around 18 to 20%.
And I'm going to tell you something. We're on break here, so when we come back, I've got a new challenge. I've been doing it 30. You've been doing it 30. Never seen this happen. We'll talk about it when we come back.
All right, we'll be back in just a second. We're back now. So you were going to tell us a story, and then I want to talk about the Cleveland market, because we are putting together an adventure there coming up, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But go ahead and tell us your story there.
So I wanted to bring up something, and again, Kevin and I both been doing this for many years. First time I've ever experienced this, and by far, even the first time I've ever heard of it happening. But under contract on a rental property, 4 days away from closing, one side rented, one side vacant. And whenever you go under contract on a property, the seller, once the contract is executed on both sides, and now we're just waiting for the close date, we may be waiting on title or final financing, whatever it happens to be, but both parties have executed the contract, and now it's just we're biding our time to close on this particular property. So that's the status that this particular offer was in. It had an executed contract on it. Earnest money had been paid, inspections had been done, and the property manager decided to lease out the vacant side without talking to us. And I'm not sure, I'm waiting to hear back from my real estate attorney whether or not they actually have the right to do that on a property that is being sold and is under contract. But what it has done for us was, once we got past me being pissed off about it, and was fairly quickly, I was like, okay, how do I prevent this from happening ever again? Now, again, hundreds and hundreds of rental properties bought and sold through the years. This has never come up, but it came up, and I want to make sure that it doesn't come up again. So what we're doing is I've added an addendum that will now be a part of all future rental property contracts that states, as well, this is a truism. It's sad that we have to put it in there, but it's a truism, and that is, look, if there's a material change in a property, the seller must notify the buyer there's been a material change. That's just part of contract law, because what you agreed upon is different now.
So it was the seller's property manager?
So yes. So the seller's property manager decided that he wanted to put somebody in the vacant side and put them in below market rents, almost half of what the market rent is, which is what the other side was rented out for. And we had agreed to let the other side stay because it was a disabled vet. And we're like, okay, we're gonna let him stay there, and we're not gonna up the rent, we're not gonna up it when the lease comes due, and he'd been there for years, so we suspect he will be there for years. So we're not doing any of that, he's fine. But this vacant side, the property manager decided to come in and put somebody else in the vacant side and do it at the same numbers that the disabled vet is getting. And the new tenant is not a disabled vet. And so they're getting the same deal. And that was a personal decision. There's a legal side to whether or not the property manager has the right to do that on a property under contract.
Yeah,
so
I think once you get the attorneys involved, then they'll get it all straightened out. But yeah, I would be very upset, and if I had to honor that I mean, that would cinch the deal for me. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, but you messed up the deal. You muddied the
Yeah.
waters. So,
Yeah.
but
I call it financial vandalism.
yeah. Before we run out of time, though, you and I had been discussing before we started this, the buyers event that we're going to be doing in June. And yes, I'm talking June of 2022. Okay, this is how packed our schedule is. I was also mentioning to Bill that every single one of our guaranteed millionaire courses, all the way through the end of the year, as of June of this year, were booked up. So I'm just starting on January of next year for the guaranteed millionaire as well. But Cleveland in 2021 went up 19%. That's still within the range of the 14% that you said nationally. But Cleveland went up 19%. Cleveland is a market that Bill and I both like. It is projected to do 13% still next year, which is pretty good.
Isn't that cool?
Next year's supposed to be a fairly soft year. So you're looking at 13%, and we're talking about next year, June. And the reason I picked June is because I'm going to be in the Cleveland area. We have a personal residence in Cleveland. I actually grew up in Northeast Ohio, so we have a personal residence. We spend our summers up there. We're going to be spending much of our summer there this year, just because we didn't get a chance to go up as much because of COVID the last 2 years. So we're going to go up. We like spending time hanging out on the lake. We like doing all of the fun summer things that we can do in Cleveland. So I'm going to be up there. I am going to be jumping in both feet. I actually like doing rehab projects on old properties. I love being able to bring back old woodwork and matching fixtures and things like that.
Yeah.
So I will be doing that in Cleveland while I'm there. But because I'm going to be there, and because I'm dragging Bill up there with me, okay, we're both doing the Cleveland Real Estate Buyers Event in June. And so far, this is the only buyers event we have scheduled for the entire year. And the way our schedules look, this may actually be the only buyers event we have for the whole year. So Cleveland Buyers Event, it will be June 10th through 13th. Because we're going to be there in person ourselves doing our own projects, we added on a special program called Master Cleveland. So we're going to be there a day before the event for any Master Cleveland participants. A day before the event, where we're actually going to cruise around. We're going to give you guys a primer on Cleveland, kind of give you more information before the event. Our last day of the event, we actually all pile onto a bus and we go out and we make offers on properties. The Master Cleveland participants, we're going to spend an additional day on that same bus going out, making offers on additional properties. The following 2 days, we're going to be walking the properties that you've made offers on, and as the Master Cleveland participants, and going over the types of rehab that you need, the cost factors that you need to be looking at, and getting started on that. There's actually some interesting loopholes and backdoors that we can use in Cleveland that allow you to be a contractor, an actual licensed contractor in the city of Cleveland for your own properties, not owner operator or owner contractor, but an actual contractor. And we'll cover that in those 2 days. And then our final day, we're just going to do a wrap-up session where we actually talk about whatever it is that you need to know about Cleveland, whatever questions you have, whatever loose ends you feel like need to be tied up, we'll do that. So that is an add-on. You can find out all that information at realestatebuyer'sevent.com, realestatebuyer'sevent.com. Now, it gets even better. I don't have it on the website yet. We will have it later on. If you want to, you can pay in full for the event or the event and Master Cleveland, or you can do a 50% deposit, because we're talking about June, to a 50% deposit that will hold your seat until we get close to the actual date. So within 2 weeks of the actual date, you need to pay the other 50%. Also, next week, we should have credit up there. You should be able to actually finance your attendance into this event. Now, if you want to do the 50%, it's not up on the website. So just send us an email, contact@realestatebuyer'sevent.com. That's contact@realestatebuyer'sevent.com. I'll get you that link for 50% down, and we'll have it up, like I said, later on in the week. And next week, we should have a company, it's a third party, that will finance your attendance at this event. So if you're interested, let us know. Get those seats secured as soon as possible. I know it seems like it's a long way off, but these events, they fill up fast, and
it'll be here before you know it.
We're going to be marketing it. I actually sent emails out last night. Bill's going to send them out today. So these seats will fill out. The Master Cleveland is limited to 10 or less people, so that's going to fill up really fast as well. The actual event we limit to about 30 people because we all have to pile onto buses to go out and look at property. So we have to keep it to a manageable group. So sign up so that you don't lose this opportunity, because the next time we do this in Cleveland may not be until 2023. Thoughts on this, Bill, or thoughts on anything else that we talked about today?
You know, just it's going to be an incredibly fun event. It's a great time of year weather-wise to be in Cleveland and to be in the Ohio area. So we promise you're going to have a ton of fun, but more importantly, we promise you that we're going to over-deliver on the content for you. Way over-deliver.
Yes. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever been to Pickwick and Frolic in downtown Cleveland, but that is where we're having dinner on the Thursday prior to the event for the Master Cleveland. So we're going to spend the day out.
Cool.
We'll grab lunch, and then we're going to wrap up at Pickwick and Frolic, which is a restaurant, a comedy club, a entertainment venue. There is a martini bar there called Kevin's. So I of course
imagine that.
I of course like to hang out there. So all right, we look forward to hearing from all of you. We will see you guys soon. Have a great weekend and happy.
Everybody.